What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Luke Makes a Tier List. In the comment section gets mad because their favorite cards in E tier. Today I thought it would be fun to rank all of the Vmax cards, even including some of the cards that aren't out in North America yet. The Japanese cards like Eternatus Vmax and Salamence Vmax and Grimmsnarl Vmax, some of those. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to rank them on their standard format competitive viability for consistency purposes and entertainment value, and I'm going to try to combine pre-rotation and post-rotation. For those of you who don't know, the Pokemon standard format has a rotation usually every August where we lose some sets. Those sets aren't legal anymore, and we also gain a new set in August, and of course that will be happening this year like most years. But some of these cards will be coming out right before rotation happens, so we'll really only be looking at these newer cards that are in Japanese in a post-rotation relevancy. So I want to start out by putting a couple of the trademark Pokemon or the trademark cards that I see for each tier from A, B, C, D to E. So I think Dragapult VMAX, it's safe to say this is an A tier card. It's really, really strong in the current standard format, and let me just pull it up so you can see it a little bit bigger. So it has 320 HP, which is nice. It's Psychic type, which has a ton of support currently. It does lose some of that support in post-rotation. It loses Mysterious Treasure. Then it has Shred, 60 damage for 1 energy, which is just okay when you can't get your second energy down, but it's really, really good for Max Phantom, 130 HP, and put 5 damage counters however you like. And then, of course, this Pokemon pairs really nicely with Horror Energy and Giant Bomb, and even sometimes Spell Tag and Malamar. So it does have a lot of psychic support, making the card good extrinsically, but internally the card is very strong because it has a 2 energy attack. It essentially does 180 damage, 130 to the active, and then 5 however you like. And because you can spread that 5 damage counters however you like around your opponent's bench, that makes the attack that much better. I think Toxtricity VMAX is a very solid B tier VMAX card, so let's just find that in my little library of VMAX Pokemon here. Where are you, Toxtricity? Here we go. So Toxtricity, 320 HP again. It's Lightning type, so pre-rotation it has a ton of support. Electromagnetic Radar, which goes with the Dene and Zeraora, Electropower, Thunder Mountain, Coco Prism. It does lose some of that post-rotation, but pre-rotation lightning types are just chock full of support, just so many goodies to put in your deck. And Toxtricity VMAX does only have 1 attack. It's Gmax Riot, Lightning Colorless to do 160. If your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned, this attack does 80 more damage. So it does 240 for 3 energy if you can poison them. And there are a couple of ways to poison: Koga's Trap and the Garbodor from Rebel Clash. And Toxtricity has had a solid bit of success. It has a couple day 2s in each of the limitless qualifiers that it's been legal for so far, and some fringe play in other online tournaments and stuff like that. We don't really have IRL tournaments happening right now, so it's kind of hard to rank them based on real life tournament results, but I do think Toxtricity is a solid, above average VMAX, whereas Dragapult is just a superior VMAX. This card is very, very strong, so that's how I'm going to try to categorize these tiers, by choosing a Pokemon that I think really represents the tier. So next on to C tier, I think I want to put Copperajah. I think Copperajah is kind of just dead in the middle of being very, very average. Now Copperajah, it would have made sense for it to be better because of all of the support metal Pokemon have, because it is a metal Pokemon that's pretty beefy. So Copperajah, 340 HP, metal type, like I said. It has Dangerous Nose. Funny attack name because Copperajah is just a giant nose. Dangerous Nose, metal colorless, 100 plus 100 if the active Pokemon's a basic, so 200, not bad, but it's also not amazing. Unfortunately, we can say 200 damage for 3 energy is not amazing in our current standard format. That's just the world we live in right now. And then Gmax Hammer for 4 energy does 240, which is very nice, but the problem I see here is that metal Pokemon, while they have a lot of support, metal Pokemon have a standard to meet. Is it better than ADP Zacian, and is it better than combo Zacian? So Zacian does 230 for 3 energy, which arguably is better than 4 energy to do 240 damage. And Zacian also is paired in 2 different decks that allow it to take extra prize cards. Copperajah is not doing that, and with the extra deck space where Zacian is taking extra prize cards, you have to evolve up from Copperajah V to Copperajah Vmax, and then maybe play tanky cards to help it, like Hyper Potion or Malilana, or things like that to help it sustain, because that's its strength, is sustaining, because it's a bulkier Pokemon than Zacian. So you're usually going to pair it with Luke Metal, Tag Team GX to, again, give it some extra sustain, but I just don't think that's as good as pairing Zacian with things that take extra prize cards. So while it is strong and it does have defensive potential, it just doesn't rack up at nearly as strong versus the other metal decks, which are Zacian variants. So Copperajah VMAX, it did have promise and it does have potential, I think, but it's just sitting as an average VMAX. It's not complete binder, but it's also not extremely competitive. So next we're going to have D tier, just below average, like almost unplayable, but it's like just good enough to be playable or just bad enough to be below average, and that's going to be Snorlax VMAX. Let's find this card up here. Here we go. So Snorlax VMAX, another 340 HP Pokemon with 4 retreat costs, which means you can buff it with buff padding to be 390 HP. I originally thought this card had a lot of promise when testing it in the Sword and Shield standard format, when Sword and Shield was about to come out, and I was proxying decks and testing with it, because I thought it was really good to build a tanky card and just heal it over and over and dish out 210 damage every turn. But that was before I realized how overwhelming ADP Zacian would be, and the ADP Zacian could just gust around your bulky Pokemon and take multiple prize cards every turn, and that was just kind of invalidating complete archetypes like Snorlax VMAX. So if Snorlax VMAX, if we were looking at these cards in a vacuum, I think I would actually probably put it higher because of its really high HP, the retreat cost that synergizes with buff padding, the Gmax Fall, which for a single energy attachment with triple acceleration energy can do a really decent amount of damage. I think in a vacuum Snorlax VMAX looks a lot better, but competitive viability, it's just an aggressive format, kind of led by Zacian taking extra prize cards, whether that is with combo Zacian or ADP Zacian, and also the aggression of Pikarom and the aggression of Baby Blounds, and it's just too much for a deck like Copperajah or Snorlax, or a card like Copperajah or Snorlax VMAX that want to focus on tanking. They just can't really do it reasonably in this kind of standard format metagame. So that's why Snorlax is going to be our representative of the D tier. And now we're going to go and ahead and put Meowth VMAX in E tier. Now Meowth VMAX came out as a promo card before Sword and Shield. This was actually legal for Dallas regionals. So Meowth VMAX, 300 HP, kind of low for a VMAX Pokemon. Colorless type, weak to fighting, just like Snorlax. And then it has a 4 energy attack to do 200 and draw 3 cards. That's just not good. With your VMAX big energy attacks, you want to be taking a one-hit knockout or doing something really, really oppressive. And this is just drawing 3 cards. Like, those 3 cards can just get Marnie to the bottom of your deck or Reset Stamp shuffled back in, like, right after you use the attack. So this card is just bottom of the barrel. It's just in the trash tier of VMAX cards, unfortunately. So Meowth VMAX, not very good. So those are kind of how I'm going to be relating these cards to the tiers. These are the trademark cards for each of the tiers. So let's start looking at some other ones. So Inteleon Vmax is a favorite of mine, and I feel like Inteleon Vmax would be really, really strong if it weren't for all of the lightning support that the strong lightning Pokemon had, because Inteleon Vmax is weak to lightning. That's not very good, especially when Inteleon Vmax is not one-shotting things itself, or at least one-shotting GXs and tag teams and Vmaxs and stuff. But Inteleon Vmax is a really strategic, tactical card, and I love how they built it like that, because Inteleon in the video game and Inteleon's personality, it is like a strategic, tactical Pokemon. I think it's the sniper Pokemon. So it is a really cool Pokemon, and this card they gave it is really cool. So Inteleon has 320 HP. It is a water type, like I said, so it does have access to support Pokemon like Frostmoth and support cards like Capascia's Bucket to search out energy for it. Its first attack, Hydro Snipe, is definitely an attack you could build the entire deck around. For 1 energy, it does 60 damage, and you may put an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon into their hand. So you can deny them an energy. It puts it back into their hand. It doesn't discard it, but for against decks that only attach 1 card a turn that are not accelerating energy, this is really, really strong. Unfortunately, energy acceleration is kind of a thing in standard format right now. I feel like energy acceleration is fairly popular, and it just keeps getting stronger and more popular as more sets come out and more archetypes form. So Hydro Snipe, I do think, could make Inteleon a fairly strong card if it wasn't for lightning type decks, and lightning type decks, just the icing on the cake. They are very good at accelerating energy with Coco Prism, Thunder Mountain, Pika, Bolton. They're accelerating a lot of energy, so even if weakness wasn't enough to be the nail in the coffin, then the energy acceleration of lightning type decks are. And it's not just one lightning type deck you have to avoid if you're playing Inteleon. You have to avoid Pika-Rom, you have to avoid Bolton variants, you have to avoid Toxtricity, and then there's even fringe stuff like Nuzzle or Morpeko, so it's not just one deck, unfortunately, you have to avoid with Inteleon. And then there's also Max Bullet, water colorless, 160 and does 60 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. I like to look at Max Bullet as a situationally stronger attack of Dragapult. I can't believe Dragapult's attack is just escaping me. Max Phantom, there we go. Max Bullet just kind of strikes me as a stronger Max Phantom, but for 1 more energy and a different type on a different card, you know, if you think about it. So it does 160 and 60. Now Max Phantom's doing 130 and 50, and you get to put that 5 damage counters anywhere you like, but Max Bullet's doing a total of 220 damage for 3 energy, 160 and then 60 to a benched Pokemon. The 60 to a benched Pokemon can actually be really good with the help of Zigzagoon to put 1 more damage, so you can snipe Jirachis, you can gust up a Dedenne, Zigzagoon a Jirachi, and knock out the Dedenne Jirachi in 1 attack. So it also has fairly good offensive capabilities, not just the tactical stuff with Hydro Snipe. So I actually worked on Inteleon Vmax a fair bit. I had written an article about it on my Patreon, shameless plug, patreon.com/CeliosNetwork. And I do think Inteleon is just such a really cool card, but its lightning type weakness unfortunately holds it back. So I'm going to put this in the C tier. It did have a day 2 or 2 in the limitless qualifiers. I do think it's fairly good versus like Zacian decks and Dragapult decks and stuff like that, but it just suffers so bad to lightning type decks, like I said. So I'm going to put it in C tier. If we were rating these cards in a vacuum just on the card design, I would be shooting this all the way up to S tier just because I love the card so much. But in standard format competitive viability, it's going to have to be C tier, unfortunately. Let's start looking at some of the new cards. So I want to take a look at Centiskorch Vmax. Like the really new cards. We're getting these cards in August, I believe, in Darkness Ablaze. So Centiskorch Vmax. Now, if you're not fluent in Japanese, luckily I am. Just kidding, I read the translations, and I also have the translations up on my other monitor just in case I forget what all the cards do, which will probably happen. So this is Centiskorch Vmax, 320 HP fire type. and it has an attack, which I do not know the name of. For 2 colorless energy, it does 40 damage, so pretty slow start there, but it does 40 more damage for every fire energy attached to Centiskorch Vmax. So it's doing, if you have 2 fire energy for that 2 colorless, that's doing 120 there. It does not stop there though. You may also, after calculating your damage, you can attach a fire energy from your discard to Centiskorch, but that doesn't count for this turn's attack damage. So you're doing 120 minimum if you have 2 fire energy on it. That's without using welder. You just manually attach twice, boom, 120. You get to attach another fire from the discard to the Centiskorch Vmax. So next turn you're doing a minimum of 160, or if you attach one more energy, you're doing 200 now. And that's 320 over the course of 2 turns for only starting out with 2 energy on the Pokemon. Fire has a nice amount of support with Welder and other fire attackers like Ninetales V and Heatran GX and Ninetales from Team Up to Gust things. And it's also getting a new fire special energy, which for every one of those fire special energies that are on your Pokemon, it buffs its HP by 20, its maximum HP by 20. So I do think Centiskorch has a fair amount of potential, and I want to put Centiskorch in B tier for that reason. Between its really good attack, its fire support that it already has, the fire energy that's coming out in this deck, I think Centiskorch could actually be a really, really solid archetype, and I hope that it is, because anything coming out that's not just a boom, one-shot the opponent archetype, I'm happy about, and I'll take it. I'll be good to go as long as we get more archetypes in the standard format in the metagame that aren't just boom, one-shot the opponent. I'm always happy to see that. Another new one we'll talk about here is Dreadnought Vmax. So Dreadnought Vmax, really cool looking Pokemon. Actually a Pokemon that I really liked in the Sword and Shield video game. I kept it with me in my party for quite a while, I think. I'm not thrilled with the card though. So 320 HP, water type, weak to lightning. This is coming out for post rotation, and lightning does get a little bit of a debuff with the cards it's losing in rotation. So maybe the lightning type weakness isn't as big of a deal as it is at the current moment for Inteleon VMAX. But Dreadnought VMAX has the ability something or other, and the ability reads this Pokemon takes 30 less damage from your opponent's attacks. So I think that's really cool. I think I like the flavor of that, since Dreadnought VMAX is this bulky Pokemon in a turtle shell. Looks like it can't be hit by anything. I like the flavor of that ability. I like the card design. And then its attack is 160 for 3 energy. Flip a coin if heads, it does 80 more. So you have the potential to do 240 for 3 energy, which, don't get me wrong, that sounds great. But why not just play Lapras VMAX, where you can guarantee your energy, just build it up with a bunch of water energy from Frostmoth. So Dreadnought I don't think is very good. I don't want to put it in absolute trash tier down here with Meowth VMAX. So I think I'll put it, it's definitely somewhere between D and E, and my bias from liking Dreadnought and its ability is solid. I think I'm going to put it in D. It has some slight tanking capabilities. Oh, and it also has 4 retreat cost, I believe, right? Yeah, so it can pair with buff padding. It has some slight tanking capabilities because of the buff padding and the ability. So I'm going to put it in D tier. Maybe you can do some fun rogue shenanigans with it, but I don't think it's very great because its attack relies on a coin flip. And speaking of Lapras, let's look at Lapras next. So I actually think Lapras doesn't get the love it deserves, and it could just be because of lightning type weakness yet again, like I said with Inteleon VMAX. So Lapras VMAX, 320 HP, it's water type, weak to lightning. I know, thumbs down. Its attack, Gmax Pump, for 3 colorless energy, does 90 plus. This attack does 30 more damage for each water energy attached to this Pokemon. So naturally you'll pair this with Frostmoth, just slap a ton of water energy on this Lapras, and if you're attacking with just the minimum 3 energy, and all those energy are water energy, then you're doing 180 for 3, not too bad. If you add 3 more, then you're doing 270 for 6 energy, and you could necessarily just one-shot anything you want with this card. Now, of course, the downside is it's weak to lightning. That's No bueno, like I said, but Lightning is getting a debuff in the future, so maybe Lapras could be a little bit better. Lapras did day 2 a couple of the limitless qualifiers. I think Lapras, like I said, with a couple of the other cards, if I was ranking these cards based on just this single card in a vacuum and not really the metagame, I would be inclined to put Lapras up a little higher. But as a card, I think it is an average Vmax card, especially with the support Water has from Frostmoth. Now, of course, like we all know, the Water cards aren't very good because of the Lightning weakness, and Lightning is prevalent right now. But I think Lapras is kind of between C and D. I think it's an average-ish Vmax card that it gets a little bit of play, and it deserves a little bit of play. So I think I'm comfortable with just slapping it in here as an average Vmax card. I know one everybody's going to be waiting to hear about is Eternatus Vmax or Eternatus Vmax, or please tell me, YouTuber, you're saying the name wrong. It's this big glob that looks like it's a hand. It's just a purple hand, guys. So Eternatus Vmax, 340 HP. Just let me say, they gave this thing everything. They gave it high HP, 340 HP. Now they're giving Dark a lot of support in this set for Eternatus VMAX, Eternatus, Eternity, whatever. Its ability basically says if all of your Pokemon in play are Dark, you can have 8 Pokemon on your bench. If at any point all of your Pokemon are not Dark anymore, you have to discard down to 5. So you're going to have an 8 Pokemon bench. They basically took Skyfield and Mega Ray and slapped them into the same card. And then its attack for Dark Colorless, it does 30 for every Dark Pokemon you have in play. So that's including this Pokemon in the active. You can do 270 damage when you have your ability allowing 8 Pokemon on the bench. So you do 270 for 2 energy. That's a lot of damage. And let's also note Dragapult VMAX, which is one of the best VMAXs in the game right now. No, it is the best VMAX in the game right now. Is weak to Dark. So this one-shots it for 2 energy. This card's kind of dumb how much they threw into one card and how much they're forming their one set around it. Now, of course, our Darkness Ablaze set, the non-Japanese sets are always bigger than the Japanese sets, but the mini set or the half set that this card is based around, they stuffed in a good amount of Dark support for it. So we are getting a lot of Dark support with this card. I'm a little hesitant about exactly how good Eternatus will be. I know it'll definitely trounce Dragapult VMAX because of type weakness or type advantage. I think I will put it in A just because of how much they threw into this card. They gave it a really good ability. They gave it a really, really efficient attack. They gave it high HP. Fighting type doesn't matter a whole ton. And they're giving it a bunch of support within the new set. So A tier for Eternatus VMAX. But I'm not entirely sure that it's going to be like the S tier deck. I think it'll be good. I don't think there's any way Eternatus will not be played, but I'm not sure that it's going to be the next ADPZ of the Sword and Shield meta. So let's see, what do we have next? We got Cinderace VMAX up in here. Now Cinderace VMAX is a tricky one because I don't think on the printed attributes of the card looks crazy, but with the stuff that's in the format for it right now, with the cards that you have available, I really love playing with Cinderace VMAX. It has Hyper Potion and Malolana and Welder, Eldegoss, Mewtwo, Scoop 'em, not to get back your utility supporters. There's just a lot of cool stuff to do with Cinderace VMAX, but the card itself doesn't have anything like really crazy about it, but the decks that you can build with Cinderace VMAX, I really, really enjoy playing with. It's just kind of fresh. It's different than a lot of the other decks. So Cinderace VMAX, 320 HP, Fire type. Like I said, it gets support from Welder. So it has the first attack counter for a Fire energy and a colorless energy. It does 30 damage plus. If this Pokemon was damaged by an attack during your opponent's last turn, this attack does that much more damage. So you can get hit with 200 damage. Let's say you get hit with 230 from a Zacian, and then you Malolana, you Hyper Potion, you attach your energy back, and you counter for all that damage again. What's really nice about this is you can heal it, you could switch it, you could do whatever you want, and then that damage still counted, even though you healed the Pokemon. You don't have to have the damage on you. So that's something I really, really love about the attack counter. And then you also have Max Pyro Ball. So this Pokemon doesn't only rely on getting hit. If your opponent doesn't hit it, that's fine. You can smack them with Max Pyro Ball. 2 Fire Energy, a colorless to do 170. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now burned. So essentially it does 190 for 3, which is really, really good, especially when you have Welder. So you could just consistently do that turn 2. Even if you didn't get smacked and you can't use counter, you could just use Max Pyro Ball. So I do like Cinderace VMAX a lot, and I'm going to put it in B tier. It's a really fun deck to play. I think it's actually kind of underrated, but I do know it has a lot of diehard fans that really, really appreciate Cinderace VMAX for what it is. Next, we have Morpeko VMAX, which has seen some fringe success in Expanded, and let's look at the card. Let's talk about it for a second. So let's find you Morpeko VMAX. So Morpeko VMAX, 300 HP. It's Lightning type. Lightnings have so much support, right? So it has Max Discharge as its only attack. Lightning colorless. 180. This attack does 20 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So it's solid. It's solid. But 180, 20 to everything. Muse just stops that. Mew Bench Barrier stops it. This did see some fringe success in Expanded. A few good players played it. I believe it got top 16 in an Expanded tournament not too long ago. With Dusknoir. It was a really cool deck. I did a deck profile for it on the channel a couple months back. But I think what really holds Morpeko VMAX back is that it only has this one attack. Now, Morpeko V, there's actually been Morpeko V decks in Standard that are built around the V Pokemon, and they only play one Morpeko VMAX for, like, the late game. Morpeko V has an attack where it hits for 150 and then switches onto the bench. I think if they gave Morpeko VMAX a similar attack as well, on top of Max Discharge, then Morpeko VMAX would actually be a little bit more playable. If it had more options to work with once it gets its higher HP boost of 300, which, just let's note, 300 is actually on the lowest spectrum of VMAX HP. So I think they kind of did Morpeko VMAX dirty. They could have given it one more attack, just kind of copy and paste the V's attack onto it to give you a little bit more versatility with Morpeko VMAX. While I like damage spread, I just don't think this is very strong because you can play better lightning type Pokemon than Morpeko VMAX and just one-shot your opponent. So unfortunately, I'm going to throw Morpeko VMAX in D tier. Next, let's take a look at Malamar VMAX, if we can find that one here. So Malamar VMAX is a pretty cool card, 310 HP, so again, it's lower on the VMAX HP spectrum. It's dark type, so it has access to some fringe dark Pokemon support, like a Weavile GX and Darkrai Prism, which can accelerate energy, then move it with Weavile GX. Basically, everything comes back to Weavile GX. You could also play this in like a Mismagius variant, and then, excuse me, use you could use counter gain, so you can attack on turn 2, energy counter gain, Max Jammer. Max Jammer is pretty cool, especially if you pair it with Reset Stamper Marnie. So it does 180, your opponent reveals their hand, then you choose a card there and put it at the bottom of their deck. Basically, you're hoping that your opponent only has one playable card in their hand and you can get rid of it. Now, I don't think Malamar VMAX is insanely strong. I do think it has rogue capabilities, and I know there are people like Lapras, like Cinderace VMAX, they're just really, really in love with Malamar VMAX, and they want to make it work, and it does have some sort of rogue potential. It's not completely useless like Meowth VMAX, F in chat for Meowth VMAX, but it's also nowhere as powerful as something like Dragapult or Eternatus. So D tier for Malamar VMAX, but like I said, it does have rogue potential. Let's look at another new card. I want to talk about Salamence VMAX. So Salamence VMAX... Salamence VMAX is actually very, very cool, and I also want to note that there is I think it's called Powerful Energy. It's a special energy that provides a colorless energy, and your colorless Pokemon that it's attached to does 20 more damage. So, if you haven't noticed, I think they took Dragon types out of the TCG. But that's another story for another time. I think other content creators have already talked about that. So this is pretty cool. It does, for 1 energy, it does 40 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. Now, if you have the powerful energy attached, you could do 60-40. So 60 to the active, 40 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. I think this is a pretty solid attack. I'm always down for some sniping attack, some damage spread, you know that. So I'm already on board because of the first attack. Now, the other attack for 4 energy, it does 240, and I'm going to have to see here exactly what else it does, because I did look it up before the video and now I have forgotten. But don't worry, this is a professional channel. Everything here is professional, don't worry. So let's see, where is Salamon's Vmax? Let's look for this guy. Please enjoy this slight intermission where you slightly hear the background music courtesy of Glitch City. Oh, okay. I could have just guessed that. That's easy. It's 4 energy, 240, and you can't use it next turn. That's simple. I could have just kind of guessed that, and if I was wrong, someone would have told me in the comments. So, simple attack. 4 energy, 240, can't use it next turn. But I do like it because of the new powerful energy coming out. So if you have, like, 2 powerful energies attached and maybe you weldered the other 2 down, as much as I hate welder, then you're doing like 280 for having 2 powerful energies attached. So you can bump this attack up, and you can also set up knockouts with your first attack doing 40 to 2 Pokemon. So I think this is an interesting card. I think it's like right between average and above average, honestly. We don't know how it's going to do. It's also weak to lightning, which we have to note about every single VMAX here that's weak to lightning. So I'm going to put it in the average column for now, and we'll see what happens with it. Next is Butterfree VMAX, and good lord, did they just say, hey, let's give a VMAX card absolutely nothing, but give it beautiful art. And they were like, okay, Butterfree sounds good. So Butterfree, 300 HP, really low HP, weak to fire, and not the best weakness to have, and it has a single attack, but beautiful art before we get there. Free retreat, beautiful art, and its attack is just garbage. Grass, colorless, 150. Your opponent's Pokemon is now poisoned and confused, I think, or poisoned and burnt. Let me just confirm that, but I do know that it's terrible regardless of what it does. Let's see. That's Salamon's VMAX. Professional YouTube. VMAX, worst card ever. Yeah, confused and poisoned. I think that's what I said. Celio always right. Okay, so yeah, confused and poisoned, 3 energy, 150. So let's call it 160 because it's also doing poison. Yeah, this poor thing. That is never worth using. You do not want a 3 prize Pokemon that's weak to fire, 300 HP, just to do 160 and confuse. They're going to be like, okay, Malolana, and knock you out. Just absolutely terrible, and it's joining me out in trash tier. Sorry about that. Next, let's get to my boy Stonejourner VMAX. I made a video about this, a gameplay video, way back in the Sword and Shield days, you know, yeah, way back 3 months ago. A Stonejourner VMAX was actually really fun to play with, but it's just outclassed. There's other Pokemon that you could heal and do more damage with and tank better with. Stonejourner VMAX, 330 HP fighting type, so it does have access to things like Diancie and Martial Arts Dojo, and it is fairly tanky, 330 HP. It's like 10 HP above the average, I guess, for VMAX Pokemon. It's attack Stone Gift, attach a fighting energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon, and then heal 120 damage from that Pokemon. So you don't do any damage with this, and that's a real problem. But the good thing is Max Rockfall does 200 for 3, and you one-shot Pikarom. We've been talking about how good lightning variants are, and Pikarom is weak to fighting, Toxtricity is weak to fighting, Boltund only has 200 HP as it is before weakness, I believe. So Max Rockfall knocks out some important Pokemon, but I do think Stonejourner VMAX is just way too slow to ever be considered like a good meta deck. So I'm going to put it in D tier. It's not complete trash. You could do some fun rogue things with it, but it's also not very good. Next, we've got Rillaboom Vmax, hashtag Rillaboomers. So, where is this one? Here we go. Rillaboom Vmax, 330 HP, also a bit tanky, and it has support from the Stage 2 Rillaboom that searches out 2 grass energy and attaches it. I've done some Rillaboom Vmax content on the channel. You can check that out, deck lists and whatnot. Scratch for 50 for 1 energy, just a little bit of supplementary damage to get in there early or late, after or before a max beating. And then max beating for 4 energy does 130. You can discard up to 3 grass energies from the Pokemon, and it does 50 more damage for every grass energy you discarded, so it could do a maximum of 280. The one thing holding this back is that it can't one-shot other VMAXs, and I think Rillaboom VMAX is an average-ish VMAX Pokemon, but it's definitely carried a bit by Rillaboom. Actually, looking at what I have in average, we're dropping Lapras down to D tier. Sorry, Lapras. Whoopsie. Yeah, Lapras deserves D tier. So we have only new Pokemon left. So next we've got Gardevoir VMAX, or new Pokemon, new cards from the next set, or from August, or whenever we get these cards. So Gardevoir VMAX, 320 HP Psychic type, and it has 1 attack. Also note, it's weak to Metal. That's not a good thing to be weak to because of Zacian. So, Psychic Colorless to do 180 and heal 50 damage from this Pokemon. That's not very bad. There's also a new item card that heals 80 from a Psychic Pokemon if you discard an energy from it. Of course, you have things like Malolana and Hyper Potion and blah blah blah, and you have Horror Energy. We won't have Mysterious Treasure anymore, but there is some good Psychic type support for this card, and I think if anything it'll be carried by the support it has, not by anything like intrinsically good on the card itself. 180 and heal 50 is solid, but it's fairly vanilla, and I think this is just like an average card. It could see some play. I think it has potential because of the Psychic support surrounding it, but other than that, I don't think it's like anything amazing. Now we have Grimmsnarl VMAX, which 330 HP, so a bit bulky here. For 3 dark energy, it does 170. And for every additional dark energy attached, it does 50 more damage, but you can only add 50 more damage. I'm sorry, you can only add 150 more damage, is it? Let's go read this one. This is another one we gotta read. That's wrong tab. Okay. Grimmsnarl VMAX. I believe you can only add 150 more damage, but let's make sure I'm correct about that. I'm sorry, you can only add 100 more damage. I was thinking, like, wait, I would actually think this card is good if you could add 150 more damage, but no, alas, you can only add 100 more damage. So you could make this card do 270 damage for 5 energy, which at the end of the day, that doesn't really sound amazing. You have to get 5 energy onto this thing in the first place, and then you're doing 270, which doesn't even one-shot other Pokemon. Like, if I have 5 energy on a Pokemon, I want to one-shot things. Now, like I said, I don't like one-shot formats, but if there are one-shot cards out there, and there are, you don't want to be playing a card that gives up 3 prizes. You have to commit 5 energy to it, and you're still not one-shotting anything. Well, you're one-shotting things, but just not other VMAX Pokemon. You know what I mean. So Grimmsnarl, I think, is like probably D tier. Dark Pokemon have been a meme for a while. Dark Box and all that. I'm going to put it in D tier. I really don't think it's going to be good. Maybe we can come back and laugh at this video when Grimmsnarl's best deck in format in a few months, but I don't think it's very good. Charizard VMAX. So, 330 HP, tanky again. And first attack 100 for 3 colorless energy, nothing to write home about. And then its other attack 300 for 5 energy, and then discard 2 energy attached to this Pokemon. So now this is a little better than Grimmsnarl's 270 for 5 energy. This does 300 for 5 energy. Still, you're not one-shotting a lot of VMAXs. You're one-shotting a handful of them. The weaker ones, maybe you can get a little bit of extra damage in with Zigzagoon or something like that, so you could actually make it a pseudo one-shot. But you also have to get 5 energy onto this Pokemon in the first place. Now, of course, Fire Pokemon have Welder, and there's the new supporter Rose coming out that can accelerate energy to VMAX Pokemon specifically. So there is some stuff you could do. But I think Charizard VMAX, it's coming out in a starter deck, and that just, or it came out in a starter deck in Japan, I should say, along with Grimmsnarl, and I just kind of see this as like a starter deck card, honestly. It's not very good. I don't think this is going to see much play, but it does have fire support, so I'll give it that. And we'll put it in, because it does do 300 for 5 energy, whereas my problem with Grimmsnarl is it did not do 300. Rillaboom stops short of that. Salamence stops short of that. I think I'll put it in average. It does need a lot of energy, but it can do 300, which is really solid. Plus, it's fire type, so at the very least, we're, you know, always knocking out Zacian or anything else that's fire weak. The last card, oh look, it's a fire weak Pokemon. It's Scizor Vmax. So I really like Scizor. Scizor GX and Celestial Storm was a card I tried to build around for a while. So I'm always disappointed when they have a cool Pokemon like this and they just don't do very well with the card. 320 HP, metal type, so it gets some metal support, but some of that metal support is also rotating once this card comes out. It has 320 HP, like I already said. I think I said that twice. We're getting near the end of the video, so I'm going to need some more coffee. Sorry about that. So just one more time in case you didn't hear, Scizor does have 320 HP, and it has 2 attacks. So metal colorless to do 90 damage and reduce 30 damage from incoming attacks next turn. That's just really weak on a VMAX Pokemon. They have to know, like, yeah, this is a filler card. This isn't going to do anything. And then its other attack does a 190 for 3 metal, 2 metal and a colorless. Like, come on. Well, look at what you've done to my boy. Like, just really bad. Is it as bad as Meowth and Butterfree? I guess not. We'll put it in D. It's not as bad as these two. These are just, like, whew. Like, they knew that we were going to have a toilet paper shortage, so they made Meowth VMAX and Butterfree. But, like, Scizor isn't that bad. Honestly, I think this tier list is pretty, I like the distribution of it. That there's only a few Pokemon up at the top, then it trickles down to having more Pokemon as we go down. That kind of happened naturally. I didn't mean for that. So, yeah, this is my tier list of VMAX Pokemon. Everything out from Sword and Shield, Rebel Clash, Darkness Ablaze, and wherever we're getting Charizard and Grimmsnarl. So, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it and you want to see more content like this in the future. Click that thumbs up button because it really does help the video reach more new viewers. And I hope you all have a good day. I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.